Hey guys, Fat Man is coming at you. Down here on the bench are the pieces of the action for the Glenfield Model 60 that I've been working on. I just started on. I wanted to get it all apart, clean it. I took some measurements on my feed throat, and they are significantly different than the one that I took out of my other one that didn't work. Same with the lifter. So this stuff may be functioning. I don't know because I didn't take it to the range. But we're going to give it a shot. I'm going to put it all back together. It's not that big a deal to do. I believe I did a video on taking it apart, which is not a big deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it together. I thought I'd take you along for that. This is the disconnector, and that is the disconnector spring. The spring has a long and a short end, and they're configured appropriately for where they go. On the plate, towards the back here, you have two holes. This top one is the one where the disconnector goes, and the pin goes through from the side with all the posts sticking out. So, set the disconnector down. The disconnector, the tab goes up. It goes around that pin. This one, this little little short guy, a little disconnector pin. And there's a corresponding E-clip to fit it. It's out of the 3 E-clips that I have here, it's the biggest one. Alright, push it through. I'm going to hold it in. Take my E-clip and set it on here. I'm just going to take a screwdriver. I'm going to use the screwdriver kind of flat ways and just use it to pop that little bad boy on there. Flip it back over right where I need it. Moves nice. The spring, the long tab, hope I can get this to show. The long tab goes through this hole here, this very small hole. The short one goes through the hole in the disconnector. I am aware that I need a new camera that will auto zoom and stuff, because apparently my phone doesn't. Someday I will be a rich man and I'll be able to buy a new camera. I don't know what day that'll be. So this can be just a little bit of a stinker. It's stinking like poo right now. There we go. Because you gotta lift it and hoogie it in there. But it's in. No big deal. Nothing too tough. Make sure it'll moves up and down. The spring holds it in position. The next part that goes in is your sear. This hook on the sear is going to meet with this top part of the disconnector. So they're going to go together just like this. But there's a spring, another spring, that goes in there. Now this end has kind of a hook on it, and this end is just a long tail. The tail, the spring goes on just like so, and this tail goes up over that pin. But this hook goes in the back of the sear. So when we put it together, you start your sear on, put your spring on, wiggle it a little bit, and that sear will slide right down on there, right where you want it to go. Slide the spring all the way down to the bottom. I just hooked this under my fingernail. Some people don't have a fingernail, use a pliers or something then. I had fingernails. I know how to trim my nails. So it looks something on that order. So I hope you can see the pictures. I can take more detailed pictures later. But that's how that goes. The next thing is your hammer. I remember when we took it apart, I had to put that pin in there. Don't let that spring go flying off. It is a son of a gun to get back on there. So the hammer, the hole in the hammer, goes into this top pin. So you go, boop. I take a screwdriver and slip it in here between the pin and the sear. And you can just move that sear just enough to let that hammer slide on down. And then you can take your screwdriver out. Bada bing, bada boom. Wonder if I can zoom this in for you a little here. There we go. Alright. So this is getting to be the touchy part. This is your buffer. And that's going to be the last thing we put in before we put the plate in. This is your lifter spring. The short tail with the hook goes up around your lifter. The long one goes in this little groove on your feed throat. Feed throat goes in. Oh, come on now. There you go. The spring goes onto that pin, just like that, and sits into that groove on the feed throat. Now the tricky part, hold your finger on the pin. I have a punch that is just the right size to fit. There's a hole. Let's see, can I get the angle right? There's a hole right here. And this punch will fit right in that hole. So I'm going to set that there. I'm going to hold my finger here. I'm going to take my punch. I'm going to hook the spring. And when you pull it back far enough, it'll just kind of slide down your punch. And you can hold it there. Your lifter goes into your feed throat. And you got to pay attention to which way it goes in. That little hammer looking end goes down. Stick it in your feed throat. And then the hole fits over the same pin that the hammer is on. When you got it in there, hold it. And just kind of pop your punch out. And that will slip that spring right up there, around there. The other end of the spring is right here. And that, my friends, is almost everything. The buffer, when you're looking at it, and your feed throat's to the front, this tapers this way to the back. And it just sets on that pin there, just like that. Now the other side plate goes on, and you just kind of got to eyeball it together, line up all the pins, wiggle a little bit. However you want to wiggle is fine. If you can get somebody else to wiggle for you, that's okay too. I couldn't talk my wife into wiggling for me today. My granddaughters aren't here. I bet they'd wiggle for me. Now I've got something off because it's just not popping together. There we go. It's my lifter came off the pin a little bit. Boink. Popped it right back on. You got to make sure everything is pushed together. That pin that the lifter sits on has steps to it. Make sure it's in the steps the way it belongs. Because otherwise nothing's going to fit together right. So we got our buffer in, our hammer retainer, the spring retainer here is in the right spot. Our hammer moves, our lifter will move. Time to put those two pins on. The last two. Now when I took this apart, these are the two pins that were missing. And there again, just line it up, take my screwdriver, my flat screwdriver, kind of sideways at it, just slip them in. Not a big deal. Pop. Now to get this back out, just push your hammer back. Alright, push your hammer back a little bit. And it'll come right out. When you let go of the hammer, that rod almost comes through there, but it doesn't quite. So if you cock it all the way, it'll stay. If you push the back of the disconnector back here, hold your hammer because you really don't want this to go flying. Push it forward, and it should be able to. When you push it all the way forward, it should release your hammer. It should stay in line with your sear. Okay. And there we go. So it's all functioning, working again. That's going to be it for this video. I will probably come back and do some reassembly stuff. So I hope you found some of this informative. If you have any other questions or comments, please leave them. I do read them every chance I get, and I always get back to people. So with that said, stay safe, God bless, and have a fantastic day, and we'll get some more videos going this weekend. See you next time.